good morning everyone. Today topic is spreadsheets, and spreadsheet is nothing but the data that we are going to store in the form of tables, and that is rows and columns. So spreadsheet is the common format used, and all the data that is going to be stored in the form of, like normally we use it word as Excel. Okay. So basically in this topic what we are covering, like creating and navigating the worksheets and adding information to worksheets, like how you can add some information to the worksheets, and then how we'll try to manipulate, and then how we'll do some changes on the sheets with the help of the options available from the worksheet perspective point of view. Then we have the option called as multiple spreadsheets. So you will be adding, removing, hiding and renaming the worksheets which will be available over there at the bottom one, and then adding headers and footers which was available in the Word. Also it is also available in the worksheet as well, as with page breaks and previews. So creating formulas, inserting functions, cell reference, absolute, relative. So within the worksheet that we'll be using over here, the same way we were using formula for the MySQL, like we have some specific functions, same we will be using for the multiple spreadsheets over here. Then we have the functions like financial function we have, specifically speaking. So those functions we have FE, PM, PMT, PPMT, IPMT and NPR with the rate. So these are the functions which are related to the financial functions only. Then we have the mathematical and statistical function, like for example round, round down, round up, ceiling, floor, int, max, min, mode, sqrt, square root, abs, absolute, sum, count and average. So these are some of the common functions that we use from the mathematical and statistical point of view. And then at the end we have data analysis based on what: sorting, subtotal, pivot tables, building pivot tables, pivot table regions, and we have rearranging pivot tables. So these are some of the topics which are covered in unit number 3rd, and basically it is based on what? Spreadsheets. Okay, starting with this one. So as you can see over here, spreadsheet data is the information that is stored in any spreadsheet program such as Excel or Google Sheets we are talking about. Data stored in cells in a worksheet can be used in calculation, displayed in graphs, or sorted and filtered to find the specific information. So basically speaking, when we are going to store some data, and based on the data what we are trying to do, we are just trying to manage it and like process it based on the requirement. So we are using the term Excel or Google Sheets. So data stored in cells in a worksheet can be used in calculation, displayed in graphs, or sorted or filtered to find specific information. So this is how we are using what spreadsheets is all about. So basically speaking, based on that we have the concept which is called as cell and range. Okay, so what is a cell in Excel? It's nothing but the location, like a single value that you can store in one particular column and row wise intersection. We use a term as cell. So the location of a cell of on a worksheet is given by its column letter and its row number. For example, A1. So this is often referred to as cell address. So all the cells on the worksheets are separated by gray lines known as grid lines, and a group of adjacent cells known as range of cells. So there are 3 types of cell reference operator that can be used to identify cells and range: the colon, comma and the space. For example, if we see the first one, that the colon, this is used to define a range of cells. Example A1 to D4. A range of cell is described in terms of the top left cell and the bottom right cell reference separated by a colon. Comma, this is used to define non-adjacent cells. Example A1, B2. The comma is also known as the union operator. Then space, this is used to combine the intersection of 2 blocks of a cell. Example A1 to D4 or B2 to C3. When you use this operator, the 2 blocks of the cell must overlap. If not, then an error message will appear. So the space is also known as the intersection operator. Multiple cell range are commonly known as non-adjacent or non-contiguous ranges. These are ranges of cells that are not in a nice rectangular block. Okay. So basically speaking, when we are going to talk about colon and the comma and the spaces, so this is how we do what? Define the range of cells that we are going to work on. Okay. Now the next one is entering the data. So you can enter three different types of data into the cell. This is sometimes called as the expanded to 4, as some people class like dates and time as a separate type. So basically speaking, when we talk about the data, we talk about numerical. These are basically numbers or values. This include dates and times, which are treated as serial numbers. This allows dates and time to be manipulated within formulas such as adding and subtracting dates. So this is possible in numerical form only. The next come is text. So these are basically words or any kind of text data. These are also known as labels or strings. Text entries are considered to be labels because you cannot perform any calculations on them. So this is something called as text. Then formulas. So these all start with an equal sign and allow you to perform mathematical operations. So this is something called as formulas. Okay. So these are some of the things that we use to define, or in the form of what? Entering the data in the Excel sheets. We use these terms like numerical, text, and the formulas. So when you are going to write down a formula, every time you need to start with the equals to sign. If you select a cell and start typing, you will override the contents of that cell. So you can enter or edit the contents of the cell either by using the formula bar or by using the cell directly. So if you are not able to edit the contents in the cell directly, then check like tools, options, edit tab, edit directly in cells. So this is the one way, and the other one which you can follow to edit the data in the cells. Now the next one after storing the data is something we use the term as selecting data. So before you can enter data into the cell, you must select the cell first, and there can be a number of cells selected on a worksheet at any one time, but there will be only ever be one active cell at any one time. So this means what? In simple words, when you click on the Excel sheet, only one cell will be selected, not all. So this is a common thing that they are showing you based on what? Selection. So the active cell is always surrounded by a black border. So the address of the active cell is always displayed in the name box to the left of the formula bar. So when a range of cells is selected, only the upper left cell is considered to be the active cell. If a range of cells is selected, then active cell is identified as white. So to deselect a cell or the range of cells, click anywhere outside the range or press any of the arrow keys. So there are a large number of shortcut keys that can help you to select data, and probably the most useful is Ctrl+Shift+8, which selects the current region. Then after selection we have something called as moving data. So whenever you copy cells, Excel stores the data in a temporary memory called the clipboard. So the data will stay there until it is replaced by some other data. So it will only get replaced with a subsequent cut or copy command. So the shortcut key is Ctrl+C, Ctrl+X and Ctrl+V, corresponding to copy, cut and paste data respectively, and are consistent with other applications. So you can alternatively adjust, like press enter to paste the current entry from the clipboard. Sorting data. So from the sorting point of view, there are a number of ways you can sort and rearrange your data. You can sort by rows or columns into ascending and descending order. So when you sort by rows, the column remains in the same order and the rows are rearranged. Okay. You can define your own custom sorting sequence regardless of their alphabetical sequences. It is important to remember that numerical values are sorted ahead of text values. So there are 4 custom lists that exist by default, and these contains days and months. So if you sort by a column that contains entries for from one of these four custom lists, then they will be automatically sorted into the correct chronological order, that is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Jan, February, March, etc. So this is the sorting by default being applied over there in the ascending order. Then the next one is the deleting data. So when you want to erase the contents of a cell, use the edit clear menu rather than deleting the actual cells. Alternatively, you can press the delete key. This will ensure your formulas and numbers formatting remains intact. Okay, this is how we can define it over here. Displaying data, sometimes if a number starts with a negative sign, then they are only displayed as a dash. If the column width is not wide enough for the whole number, just F2 the cells or convert it to a formula prefix with a equals. If you have used rows and columns range names to provide a quick way to get parameters into the worksheet function, then num is displayed although the correct value is obtained. Hiding data from being printed. So need to produce a printout where certain cells, not an entire row or column, you could right click and hide them. If in the print area needs to be hidden, one trick is to set the font color in those cells to white. Select the cells format, that is format cell. In the format cells dialog box, click the front tab and click the arrow at the right side of the color list box and select white from the list. Click OK to close the dialog box and apply your new font color. Print the worksheets without showing the unwanted cells. After you finishing the printing, select the cells again and select the color back to black or automatic. So this is how we can do what? Hide the data from being printed. Linking a cell, so you can reference a cell to in another cell if you want to copy the cell. So select the cell that you want to link and then select edit paste special and then paste link. So this is how we can do what? Create the links in the cell. So whatever that you do in another column, like for example adding some values, so those values will be reflected in this cell also based on what? Linking a cell. Adding links, so you can copy a range of cells and paste to picture onto a worksheet, so the picture is then updated automatically when any changes in values or formatting is done. Hold down the shift key and select edit paste picture link. So this is how we can do what? Paste the picture link as well. As important, like Excel treats numbers and text differently, so values are automatically aligned on the right and displayed in the general number format. Text is automatically aligned on the left, so copying cells with will copy their values. Formulas, formatting and comments, so cells cannot contain more than 32,000 characters, so that is the maximum range being given over here. Okay, then we were talking about the types of the data. So spreadsheets are composed of columns and rows that create a grid of cells. So typically each cell holds a single item of data. Here's an explanation of the three types of data that we were saying previously also. The text data, also called as labels, is used for worksheet headings and names that identify the columns of the data. Text data can contain letters, numbers, and special characters such as the sign of exclamation or and operator. By default, text data is left aligned in a cell. So number data, also called values, is used in calculation. By default, numbers are right aligned in a cell. In addition to actual numbers, Excel also stores dates and time as numbers. Other spreadsheet programs treat dates and times as a separate data category, so problem arises when numbers are formatted as text. So these prevents them from being used in calculation. So formulas like are mathematical equations that work in combination with data from other cells on the spreadsheet. So simple formulas are used to add or subtract numbers. Advanced formula perform algebraic equations. Spreadsheet functions are formulas that are built into Excel. So dates in Excel. Excel automatically recognizes dates entered in a familiar format. For example, if you enter 10/31, so October 31st or 31st OCT, Excel returns a value in the default format 31-OCT October. So how to convert data types in Excel? So this is one of the common that we follow over here rules. When data is imported from database or enterprise reporting system, numerical data may be transferred as text. Such situations can create sorting problems. Look for numerical characters that are left aligned in cells. Numerical values should align to the right by default. There are several ways to change text data into numerical data, but using the value function is usually the easiest solution of all. So conversely, if you want Excel to read numerical characters or a formula as text, just add an apostrophe at the beginning of the entry. For example, like this: apostrophe 10 or apostrophe equals to text, then round bracket open a1 comma 0. So this is how we can add it over there at the beginning. Okay, so then next one we have autocomplete. So this feature examines the contents of the active column in the data directly above that and tries to anticipate what you are about to type. So autocomplete is the automatic filling in of your text, and you can start typing in switch on by default. So this will reduce the amount of text you have to enter, preventing you type the repetitive words. So autocomplete matches only exact cells entries, not individual words in a cell. So this does not work when entering or editing the formulas. So check your Excel option, advanced tab, editing options, enable autocomplete for cell value. It should be checked by default. Okay, like this one. Advanced option for working with Excels, you have the edit option. On that edit option, you have the option as enable autocomplete for cell value. So this is the option, and this is by default is selected. So this can be very useful if you are entering data into a table containing duplicate entries. So whenever you enter text in a cell, search that like column of the current region to see if the character matches an existing text strings in the column. If it finds a matching text string, it will be automatically filled in by the remaining characters. So be aware that this can be also leading to mistakes if you are entering data that is similar but slightly different. So you should or you just need to type in the first letters or digits of an entry, and any matching entries will be displayed automatically. So like this one, as you can see, productive. So when I write PR and then followed by the all the words will be displayed, so you need to press tab over there to select that data. If the first few letters you type match another cell in the same column, Excel will complete the text for you automatically. Okay, autocomplete is the automatic filling in of your text when you start typing and is switched on by default, as I told you. So every time you are starting typing in a cell, all the entries in the same column of the current region are scanned, and as each character is typed, any possible matches are automatically highlighted. So when you repeat list entries, Excel intuitively suggests entries based on the first few characters you type. So you can either accept the suggestions or continue over typing. You can either continue typing in order to override or press enter to accept the suggestions. This only matches exact cell entries. This does not work when inserting or editing the formulas. So autocomplete, although you can switch it off, remember that autocorrect and autocomplete are very different. Okay, autocorrect happens only like automatically, and there is nothing you can do to stop it other than removing the entry from the list. So autocomplete, however, requires you to press the tab key to accept the suggestions, as I told you. Using the autocomplete, make sure you can edit directly the cells, like check your tools options, edit tab, edit directly in cell. If you are unable to edit directly in cells, then the entry will auto complete in the formula bar, and you can accept the suggestions by pressing either the enter or the tab keys. If it's possible to also accept the suggestions by pressing any of the two arrow keys or by selecting another cell, you can remove the highlighted suggestions by pressing the delete key. So autocomplete is only displayed after enough characters have been entered in order to determine which value matches. Okay. So based on that, if you are typing it down like this one, to ignore, just keep typing. Autocomplete only matches complete cell entries and not individual words. So an alternative to using autocomplete is to use a pick from the list drop down list, and this can be displayed by shortcut key, which is called as alt plus down arrow key, or using the cell shortcut menu that you can use it over here. So pick from a list. An alternative way to enter values that have been entered before without retapping the value is to use the pick from the list feature. So a quicker way to select an existing entry is to mouse click, and then select pick from the list on the shortcut menu. This will display a drop down of all possible values. Pick from the list available, and when you right mouse click to display the cells shortcut menu, the list contains all entries that have been previously keyed in. So pick from the list if a column contains several words, all starting with the same word. So it may be easier to select an entry from a drop-down list of choice. This is available from the cell shortcut menu. A shortcut menu is activated by pressing the right mouse button as opposed to the left. Select the cell directly below and press the right mouse button. Select pick from the list like this one. So when you right click over there, you'll get the options, and from there you'll find the option as pick from the drop down list. So quick way to display the pick from the drop down list is to use a shortcut key, and the shortcut is alter down arrow, alter plus, and then you need to press continuously down arrow. So this will display a drop down list of the unique entries in that column from the data directly above, like this one, as you can see it over here. Okay, drop down list. So this will be automatically sorted in alphabetical order. Just select the value that you would like to enter. So autocomplete will only match on exact cell entries and not on individual words within the cell. So this feature is on by default, although you can switch it off by changing the tools option, edit tab, enable auto complete cell values, and then uncheck the checkbox. Autocomplete does not work on numbers or when editing any formulas. If the text that autocomplete displays is not correct, then just continue typing it. Okay. Okay, the next one is called as autofill. So autofill allow you to automatically populate your cells with a sequence or list, as well as letting you quickly copying the values to adjacent cells, so you can save time by using this feature to complete a series of labels, numbers, or what you can say worksheets. So this allow you to create series of fixed or incremental values on a worksheet by dragging the fill handle with the mouse. So using autofill is an alternative to entering repetitive data. So when it follows in a sequence, both number as well as text can be entered automatically, and it can also be used to extend formulas as well as formatting. So you can use the autofill feature with your mouse or by using the edit fill or subject menu. So fill like subject menu, that is edit, go to fill, and then subject menu provides you with several options for automatically populating your cells, like this one, edit, fill, and then you will have the options. Okay, so down copies both the values and the formats from the first row of the cell in the selected range down to the cell below. Right, that is copies both the values and formats from the first column in the selected range to the cell to the right. Up, that is copies both the values and the formats from the last row of the cell in the selected range up to the cell above. Left, like copies the values and the formats from the last column of the cell in the selected range to the cell to the left. And across worksheet series, display the series dialog box to let you populate the selected range of cells with a series of values. Contents of the first row or column in the selection are just as the starting values of the series. Justify display the current cell entry and distribute it into two or more adjacent rows. This is the only options that actually changes the contents of the cell, redistributes the text contents of the cell to fill the selected range, and numbers or formulas cannot be filled and justified, so except for the left column, cells in the range should be blank. So this is some of the options that is available when you right click it over there. So based on that, you will get these options. So normally when we talk about across the worksheets, we talk about series and we talk about justify, and that's how we align the data in the sheets, okay, spreadsheets. So using the mouse, that you can use it over here to click and drag. So drag and drop allows to copy the paste also, so that you can do it over here. So every time you select a cell or range of cells, you should see a small black square in the bottom right hand handle corner of the selection. So if you don't see this square, then check your tools options, edit tab, allow cells, drag and drop. So this is one of the options that is available over here. So this black square in the bottom corner is referred to as fill handle, and when you place the mouse over this fill handle, the cursor changes to small black, and this indicates that you can drag the cells with the left mouse button. So dragging the fill handle with a single cell highlighted with copy the value of the all the subsequent cells. Dragging the fill handle down with single cell highlighted and holding down the control key, okay, that is going to be doing what, incrementing by value 1. So dragging the fill handle like handle up with a single cell highlighted and holding down the control key will decrement the values by 1. So dragging the fill handle with more than one cell highlighted will be continuing the sequence of values in the subsequent cells. The sequence of values can be controlled by the initial value entered in the first two or more cells. So you can also double click the fill handle to quickly copy relative formulas across a row or down a column. Dragging the fill handle and holding down the shift key allows you to be quickly insert or delete the cells. So if you are entering a long list of names with no blank cells between them, you need to insert duplicate values. A quick way to do this is to right mouse click and then select the pick from the list on the shortcut menu. So this displays a distinct list of all the current values entered. then entering the text, numbers, text and formulas. So Excel can also work with patterns of text. If your labels contains both text and numbers, the text remains static but the numbers will increment. So you can establish any kind of pattern that you use this feature to repeat the text either down a column or across the row. So you can also use autofill, uh, create similar types of formulas, and when you drag cells like containing a formula, the formula which will be modified automatically over here. Okay, shortcut keys available are Control D, Control R, Control apostrophe, and then Control double inverted commas. So the first D copies the first cell in the selected downward direction, copies the leftmost cell in the selected to the right one, and enters the formula from the cell directly above into an active cell, and enters the value from the cell directly above the into the active cell. So this is how they use it to add the formula and modify it over here as well as. So I hope so this is clear to everyone. So there is something important that you can see it over here. The autofill options will not be displayed if you have any rows filtered on the active worksheet. So using the fill handle lets you quickly populate the cells with either a copy of value or with the continuation of a sequence. So you can use the shortcut keys as Ctrl plus D to perform the added fill down, and you can use the shortcut keys Ctrl plus R to perform the added fill right. So to create a series of labels that increases by more than one unit, type and enter the first two tail labels in the series. So if you frequently enter the same data into the worksheet, you can speed up the process by creating a custom list. So clearing the cells is something that you can easily remove the contents of the cell by selecting it and pressing the delete key. So use the delete key, only remove the contents of the cell and does not remove any formatting. So never use the spacebar to clear cells, as it actually adds a space to the cell which is then also impossible to find later. So alternatively, you can use home tabs, editing groups, clear down drop downs to display a submenu for the possible items to be removed. So you can see it over here. Clear option with clear all, clear format, clear contents, clear comments and notes, and clear the hyperlinks. So these are the sub of the categories which are available in the clear option. Clear all, the contents of formatting and any cells comments are all removed. Clear formats remove just the format from the selected cells, leaving the contents and comments the same. Clear contents remove just the contents from the selected cells, leaving the formats and comments the same. This is the same as pressing the delete key. Clear comments and notes remove just the comments, leaving the format and contents the same. So clear hyperlinks, like remove the hyperlinks if it is there. Any alternative or sometimes a quicker method of removing formatting is to drag and drop an adjacent cell which has no formatting applied over here. So you can multiply a cell range by a given number, enter the number in a cell and copy it, select edit, paste, and then select multiply and click. You can decrease the values in the range by 10%, like type 0.9 in the cell and copy the cell and edit, like select the edit, paste special and click multiply. So you can enter 32,000 characters into the cell. However, if you try to copy the entire sheet, then any cells containing more than 255 characters can be truncated. So to avoid truncation, copy the cells of course, that is source sheet, to the destination instead of copying the sheet as a whole. So remember that a cell being left blank or empty is not the same as a cell being equal to 0 as a result of the formula or entering a 0 in the cell, which are both values. If you want to go for the insert option, so the insert option is also available over here. Based on that, home tab, cell groups, insert, insert cell, dialog box. Okay, so these are what, these are the all the options that you have. So an identical number of cells as the ones currently selected. So when you insert the cells, Excel will move the remaining cell in the column or row corresponding to the direction you specify. If you have an auto filter on your worksheets, this dialog is not displayed and the insert row is displayed instead. So shift cell right, shift cell down, enter or entire row, entire column, shift cell right, like inserts the cell selected, shifting the existing cell of the right, shift cell down, inserts the selected cell, shifting the existing cell down, entire row, that is inserts the selected number of rows, shifting the existing rows down, entire column, inserts the selected number of columns, shifting the existing column to the right. So this is how we can use it over here. The dialog box allows you to specify where you want to cell shifted to or move to. It is possible to insert the whole row or the column or multiple rows and columns, and if you want to insert multiple rows and columns, you need to highlight the first cell over here. So shifting cells to the right and left can be done over here, like vice versa. So any formula that contains cell references, like for example A2 to B4, will have their formulas automatically adjusted when you insert the cells. Inserting an entire row. So you can see it over here. Selecting on the top and then you can select over there. So you can use it with the help of the entire row. And then we have the mouse. Using the mouse, it is possible to insert cells using the mouse, although it might take a little bit of practice. This involves a combination of holding down the shift key and the control keys as you drag the cells you want to copy or insert. Shift, that this allows you to move, insert existing cells. Control, this allow you to copy existing cells to another location. Shift plus control, this allow you to copy existing cells and insert them somewhere else. The only way to insert more cells using the mouse is to highlight some existing cells. Highlight the cells you want to copy, typically empty cells, although it doesn't have to be, and hold down the shift and control keys. Drag the mouse so that the cursor and the line in between the cells you want to insert the cells between. So notice the plus sign above the cursor because the control keys is currently pressed. Okay. So release the mouse and then release the shift and control keys. If you want to insert blank cells, then select a range of blank cells before holding down the shift key and the control key. Inserting rows, when you want to insert extra rows, there are number of ways that you can do this. Rows are always added below the active cell. So using the insert rows menu, using the insert cells dialog box, using the row shortcut menu, and using the mouse. Rows will be inserted above the active rows or cell. So when you insert a new rows, it is an entirely new row extending to the very last column. So you can insert a single row or column, or you can insert a block of rows. So all formulas anywhere on the worksheets that refers to the data in any of the columns to the right of the new columns are adjusted automatically. It is similar way any formulas below a new row are also automatically adjusted. When you insert a new row, the formatting is copied from the rows directly above, and holding down the control lets you select non-contiguous rows. So inserting columns, so there are a number of ways you can insert the columns. Remember that columns are always added to the left of the column containing the active cell. So using the insert column menu, using the insert cells dialog box, using the column shortcut menu, and using the mouse. So inserting rows is almost identical and is discussed in step 6 as well as. So use the insert column menu. If you want to insert a single column, then you just need to select any cell in the column. So columns are always inserted before the active columns or cells. So column will be inserted before C. It is possible to insert a block of columns if you highlight the multiple columns before selecting it. So this is possible over here, but just by using the insert and then columns. So that you can do it over here directly. As you can see over here, then A, B, C, D. This is how we can do what? Insert it over here. Using the insert cells dialog box, so it is possible to insert an entire column using the insert cells dialog box, that is entire column. So when you want to insert an extra column, you can use insert columns to the left of the active cell. So when you insert a new column, it is an entirely new column extending all the way down to the last row on the worksheet. So using the column shortcut menu, you can use it like this also, right click and then insert, and when you insert it, so you can go for the columns or rows. So this is how we can do it. Then we have using the mouse, select a column C using the mouse, hold down the shift key and drag the fill handle and one column to the right. So this is how we can also drag and insert it over there as well as. A column will be inserted before the column C, as you can see it over here. Then moving, there are two ways you can move your rows and column, cutting and pasting using the mouse. So these are two of the options that we can do what? Move, that is rows and columns, very simply. Checking your options, options are there, like go for the settings. It is possible to move rows and columns or data by dragging them onto a new location with the mouse similar to dragging cells and range. When you drag your rows and columns, it's extremely easy to drop the data into the wrong place, overwriting existing data. So the alt alert before overwriting cells allows you to receive a warning prompt before any existing data is being overwritten due to this moving option. Dragging your columns, if the column that you want to move contains horizontal merge cells, then you will not be able to drag the column to a new location, so you will have to unmerge the cell first, and then the cursor will change the 4 arrows, and when it is over the edge of a column heading, then you can do it like this one. So 4 arrows should come, and then and only then you will be able to move them. So you can drag with the help of the arrows, like from the top column to the bottom, you can shift over there based on the movement that you like it from the mouse cursor. So holding down the control keys, drag a row or the column with the mouse, will drag a copy of the row or the column instead of moving it. So if you want to copy it, you can do that also. Control and then holding down the shift keys as you drag the entire column to move the rows which are being selected, and then you can move it over there as well as. Okay. Shortcut menus, it is possible to perform a drag and drop method using the right mouse button as opposed to the left one. So when you release the mouse button, when the cursor or the columns are there in now, locations of the shortcut menu will be displayed, giving a short choices of few options available over here. Okay guys, so after this we'll be covering the rest of the topics, so don't worry about it. That is all there, and it's very simple one related to the Excel sheets we'll be seeing over here. So this is the overview, like how we are going to manage and how we are going to insert the data, copy, paste and cut over there, and moving the data over here. Okay, thank you very much. Next time we'll continue from here onwards.